Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. They'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We
It's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We
It's
have
time to
arrived.
demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First
the
Contact
truth.
Radio. Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Hope you're well. All right, today is the 26th of September. 26th of September, we have a couple of signs here telling us that we are a void of course moon. Means we're between signs. We're between Gemini and Cancer. We're changing from one sign to the next. So when we're changing from one sign to the next, well, just as you'd imagine, you don't fully have one or the other. You got a combination of both. So right now we're kind of coming out of Gemini, an air sign, going into a water sign. We're going to hit that water sign this afternoon, 2:24 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So water is emotions, feelings, and we have our sun sign, which is Libra, which is all about air. So we've got air, and then we're going to be dealing with water once we go into Cancer. Words and actions and emotions. Sometimes emotions can push our words and our actions, can inspire them. So we just need to, kind of think before we speak, pay attention. We don't want our emotions to be pushing us all over the place. We want to be able to learn from the emotions, not get caught up in them. We have a triangle here, trine, between Venus and Jupiter. So Venus is imagination and Jupiter's expansion. So we have a nice expansion of Venus energies, love, imagination. We also have here between Neptune and the moon, which will be at that point Cancer. So between Cancer and Neptune, between our feelings and taking a good look at what's going on around us, looking through the illusion of what our feelings might be to see what's pushing those buttons. So good opportunities to really get another look, take a different perspective. And then later tonight, just before 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, we've got a square lesson going on between the moon sign and the sun sign, between the Libra air sign and the Cancerian water sign. Okay, so later there's going to be a lesson, and something we need to learn, a block, a square, something dealing with the idea of our words and our actions and our emotions and our feelings. Maybe learning not to say the things that can hurt us. So things get later at night, and all right. So our moon phase for today is 55% of the way full, making its way downward to a new moon. Mayan Oracle, we're at a 5-tone day. 5 tones are the overtones. The world bridger is the kin. The guide is the wizard. So today would be the overtone world bridger, guided by the wizard. Supporting cast are Skywalker, warrior, and hidden power here is the eagle. The warrior is the challenge for today, asking questions. The phrase for today is I empower in order to equalize commanding opportunity. I seal the store of death with the overtone tone of radiance. I am guided by the power of timelessness. Spaceweather.com, solar wind currently 341.1 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index is quiet. It's dropped down to the 0. Coronal holes, we don't really see anything major. Well, there is this one right up here, so I don't say why they're saying no coronal holes. So we do have a good sized one right there. And then we've got M-class flares back down to 1%. Geomagnetic storm activity is low as well. Today's report, suspicious observers, right here. Here we go.
Good morning, folks. Mid-October, the gravity measuring satellite set to run out of fuel and begin falling towards Earth. Should take 2 to 3 weeks after the fuel deficit for it to fall all the way, so we may actually be looking at early November for this one. The Arctic sea ice is in the news again. This time they're rewriting the average ranges to accommodate a more extreme climate. Long story short, they now recognize a much broader range of averages, suggesting they recognize the larger swings back and forth, making 2013 within the 2 standard deviations of the model. By the way, the ice tracker indicates that the trough is ending this year up north, and sea ice is now being regained. Kicking to Tasmania, where we see a healthy low-pressure cell made a visit, it's now set on its way to the South Island of New Zealand. The controlling pressure in Europe is about to crest onto Spain. Leading east edge will bring the first line of storms. How about this for a temperature differential? The Genesis is a power low that is synergistic with a low to the north of it, combining to pull Gulf moisture way up there and drive way northern colder air south at the western edge. That's how you get those temperature shifts, the storms where they meet, and, in the case of cold, major snowfall. More global weather at the end of the video. The sunspot situation is just the big boring guy down south and this twisting, morphing, magnetic mess up north that refuses to fire any solar flares. Talk about squandering your talents. Look at this polarity mashed together at the left side umbral groups. Unbelievable to have such low flaring. They realized how hard it was to see their magnetic connectivity, so they've now outlined the connections, with backside points having dotted outlines. Venus and Mercury sharing a magnetic connection to the Sun at the moment. Solar wind density is holding while the speed of the plasma falls. It's a recipe for some quiet geomagnetic conditions. If we can hop to Stellarium for 1 second, this is a free internet download by the way, and if you search for C-2012 S1 ISON, you'll see it right next to Mars in the pre-sunrise sky. Let's take a look now at JPL because ISON's first test is less than a week away. Let me center in on Mars and twist around so we can visualize the motion into the system. Now from Saturday night through the beginning of October, ISON will encounter Mars near directly over the North Pole. NASA's JPL and indeed all orbital diagrams relied upon do not factor planetary encounter circumstances, so it'll be interesting to see what changes by this time next week. Could be nothing, but if it discharges, it's everything. Anyway, not like we don't have coronal hole power to keep track of right now. The Earth-facing opening looks like this, top left. Now, let's go back to the morning after the Pakistan quake. The power had faded, and we called it that way, but within 2 hours of reporting that news, the power returned. It is lasting still, now on a slight decline. We took a 7-pointer in Peru, and a 6-pointer much later in Mexico that was downgraded recently to 5.7. Also worthwhile to notice the unusual North Atlantic rumbling. Remember, this is close to the ancient mantle plume earthquake hotspot. Coronal holes are still Earth-facing, and there's still moderate coronal hole power. The sunspot has the recipe for flares, and the Earth-facing filaments need to hang on for dear life. Shots of our star and our weather to close. Eyes open. No fear. It's 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.
All right, very good. All right, so topic this week has been over the reptilians. The reptilians, what are the reptilians? Well, what we know so far is they are we've heard from Credo Mutwa and David Icke, they are a race of beings that came down to this planet a long time ago. They look like reptiles. If we imagine the movie They Live or the TV series V, we get an idea of what these reptilians might look like because we've read about them for a long time. We've thought about them. We've heard these stories. Something's going on with all of this. It's not a first-time occurrence that we're hearing about them. So this is Jordan Maxwell talking about reptilians. So let's get his perspective today. Here we go.
And now ABC is coming out, Disney ABC is coming out with a new remake of V, and in it the extraterrestrials that look like humans who are bringing a, quote, new order to the world. And the pamphlet in the movie is called Dawn of a New Day. I was said, wow, I cannot believe how overwhelmingly obvious this secret symbol is now becoming. And
But
that's
were
why
you
I want
told-
to do this video on it.
But were you told more about the movie, more about, where they're going with it? In other words, I'm assuming you haven't seen it. But
No, I haven't seen it yet. But I watched the other one so many times. And the other ones, if you remember in the original, the visitors, they were wonderful people. They were very gracious and charming. And then remember the lady who was in charge of the visitors, she was the highest ranking. She went into a room and pulled off her face. It was a reptile alien.
yes.
I personally, I brought David Icke to America. He was in America because I brought him here personally.
Yes.
And so I'm saying that I am totally convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, for myself, that there are such things as reptile aliens. Though I have never seen one, thank God, but I totally believe they are here. Not because of David Icke, not because of Krito Mutwa, who I love listening to, a wonderful, fascinating man. David Icke has done great stuff. But I believe there are reptile aliens here because of my own personal research. I have been in the company of at least 8 people over the past many years, 8 different people. Each one is extraordinarily well-grounded people. Airline pilot, one with a major airlines, a very wealthy man in Las Vegas who buys and sells commercial hotels, buildings, etc. Extremely wealthy man, Christian, incidentally, very Christian man, but very, very wealthy, a very highly intelligent man. Sat down and told me about his personal one-on-one with a reptile alien in which many others in his church were privy to see. That's a whole story in itself. That happened in Colorado. And then to have scientists and a young lady who was one of my favorite people in the world, a young lady called Nancy, who just blew me away. And on my radio show, I used to have a show. I've had 7 different radio shows in my life. Like to get back on radio and do my own show again. But I had a show on KPFK here in Los Angeles, FM station. And one night I had Nancy on. And Nancy just blew the audience away. She is so feminine, so incredibly charming and feminine girl, talking about stuff that will blow your mind. Her father was in the Air Force, her family was Air Force, but her father was in charge of Project Retrievables for the Air Force. The man who was in charge of going out wherever in the world, any extraterrestrial activity, he was in charge in the Air Force to go there first. And he was the boss. And she said, and the modus operandi was always the same. And I'll have to make you a copy of her. I got 2 2-hour interviews that will just knock you out. And you could tell this is a very charming girl, but telling you stuff that you're going to have to sit down to deal with. And she said her father, wherever they would go, she always lived on military bases. And she said, and always the method was the same. There was one phone in the house for the family, and then there was another phone which no one ever touched. You never used it. And when that phone would ring, no matter when, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, it doesn't matter. If that phone rang, her father had 10 minutes to be fully dressed with his briefcase and ready to go. And in 10 minutes, a car would pull up and nothing was said. No voices, no nothing was said. A knock on the door, he would walk out, he would have military escort him to the car, get in the car and drive off, and that's it. Nobody knows where he's gone, and nobody needs to know. And so she said, in many a night, they would get that phone ring, he would get up, dressed, briefcase, ready to go, and they would take him somewhere in the world where something has just happened, and the Air Force was sending him to see what just happened, and they're in charge. And she would tell me the things that her father, especially her mother, she said the father would never tell would never tell her anything when she was a child, but the mother would tell her later on in life. She told me an experience that just blew my mind about a reptile alien, and you really have to hear it from her. But she basically, the story, and it's so fascinating, I got to tell you. She said her father would never allow her to be left alone in the house ever. When he would go off during the day, they live on base. They live on base. Doesn't matter. When he would leave the house, immediately military would come and guard all four corners of the property. They would sit there in cars and guard while he's gone, anywhere. If he went to the market or whatever, they would be guarding the house. And he would never allow her to stay at home by herself. And so she said one night, and you'll hear this interview, she said one night, it wasn't on base, they were here in Los Angeles somewhere, and she said that her mom and dad were going next door to a party next door, and she asked her dad if she could stay, and she was like 13, 14 years old, and he said no, absolutely not. So she talked to her mother, and the mother talked to the father, and got him to agree that she could stay home. And so she said, so for the first time in her life, she was actually going to be alone in the house by herself. And she said, so she was in a bedroom, she said, combing her hair, and she had a mirror that she could see her closet. And the closet had French doors. And she said they were closed, partially closed, and it wasn't too well lit in the room. She said she was combing her hair, looking at the closet door, and all of a sudden the closet door opened up, and a reptile alien stepped out. And she said he had to bend down to get under the header, and he stood up. She said it was a full-grown man, extremely muscular, but it was a reptile body, reptile alien head. And she said this thing looked at me, and I'm looking at it in the mirror. And she said he started moving toward me without moving his legs. He was just floating toward her, slowly. And she said, I felt like it was like coming up on a fly. And he was, grabbing quick. And she said she jumped up and screamed and ran down the hallway, ran into the bathroom, locked the door, opened the window, and started screaming. Of course, everybody in the neighborhood heard. She said, and when I heard, and this reptile alien, she said, came down the hallway, and I could feel that him walking because he was so heavy. And he was scraping on the door, growling like a dinosaur growl, scraping on the door. And she said then when her father and the neighbors come running up, they opened the door. When they come running up, they were yelling outside. This reptile alien ran back down the hallway into her bedroom and disappeared. She said when her father came in, the bathroom door was just ripped, and obviously the father said he was not going to hurt her, but it was a message. And he said, that's why I never wanted her to stay alone, because these aliens have told us, the Air Force, that you keep poking your nose into our business. Every time something happens, you come out and poke your nose. So we just want you to know, the next time something happens and you poke your nose into our business, while you're out here poking your nose into our business, some of us are going to come visit your daughter. So you need to stay home and stay out of our business. And so he said, so that's why they always had military around anytime he left. And so when she was telling me this story about other reptile aliens, and of course I've heard it from so many legitimately important people, I have to believe that there is something to this story. I have personally not seen one, but I don't want to. But I've seen enough to know that there are life forms on this earth which are not from here. I've already seen too much to know that. My experiences have been extraordinary, as I said. 36 major experiences I've had in my life where I've dealt with other world phenomena.
All right, very fascinating. So that's Jordan Maxwell's take on reptilians. I don't recall that I've seen a reptilian, but I've certainly seen grays. In 2012, I was heading out to Roswell for the UFO conference out there, and did a stop off at the White Sands test range and stopped off there for just a little bit. And we're looking around, and I saw a man walk out of one room, and the guy was completely green. Walked out of one room, walked to another building, entered the building. And it was funny because I was with a group of people, and nobody else saw that, despite the fact I kept saying, everybody turn and look, that man over there is green. For whatever reason, people couldn't see it. They kept turning and looking around like, where are you looking at? And I was pointing right there, and nobody saw it except me. But this man was green. They did see like the very end when the door was closing, so they saw that there was someone that did enter the room. But, that was quite fascinating. There's a green man out there. Don't know what he was. Didn't look reptilian because I didn't see anything scaly about him. He was just green, kind of like a grayish green color. Okay, very interesting, very strange. Anyway, that's our piece for today. UFO News is up next. Stay tuned.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk. Thank you very much. Today's UFO News has 5 stories. Story number 1. This is an older story, goes back to 1994. It says on September 14th, 1994, a UFO streaked across the sky over southern Africa. 2 days later, something landed in a schoolyard in Rua, Zimbabwe, with 3 or 4 things beside it, according to journalist Cynthia Hind. This was witnessed by 62 school children who had little or no exposure to TV or popular press accounts of UFOs. Cynthia Hind interviewed them the day after the encounter and made them draw pictures of what they had seen. A few months later, Dr. John Mack and researcher associate Dominic Kalimanopoulos traveled to Zimbabwe to research one of the most extraordinary group sightings of UFOs in recent times. At the Ariel School in Rua, Zimbabwe, 60 children reported seeing a landed UFO during recess. In 2007, Dominic Kalimanopoulos and Randall Nickerson began production of an edited program presenting John Mack's interview with the school children and facility. The film became a consuming passion of Nickerson's, and he spent 9 months in Africa to broaden the scope of the film far beyond our initial expectations. Discovering new witnesses that collaborate to students' accounts, he is now editing after returning from a follow-up visit in Africa and visits with the now adult children in 2010. So here is the piece. It's a longer piece. I'm not going to play it here. It's 15 and a half minutes in length. But it just goes over this story, and you can see in here as you go through, there's all the kids. You hear interviews with all the kids on what they had seen. Alright, so I'm going to move on from this story, but I'm going to leave the link available for you. Now here's a case, MUFON witness report missing time after a close encounter. It says a Missouri witness at Piedmont reported watching a large orange-red glowing ball just above her rooftop that was followed by a humanoid sighting in missing time. According to a testimony from case number 47649, closed as an unknown aerial vehicle. The Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, announced this on the 19th. The witness, who wants to remain anonymous, first heard a strange humming sound and stepped outside to investigate her 100-acre property at about 11:10 p.m. on May 24th. They saw a large, brightly glowing orange-red ball of light to the northeast corner of my house, just above the roof line and approximately 15 feet from the house, the witness stated. It looked like a solid object underneath a halo of light surrounding it. I was standing about 30 feet away from the object. I was in shock and stood there frozen. A woman called her 36-year-old son to come outside. We both watched the object for about 20 minutes or so as it hovered in the same spot, wavering somewhat. Then it moved to the southwest and noticed that there was at least 10 more of these objects in the woods at or below the tree line at about 100 yards from our position. The object moved away very slowly towards the wood, seeming to be unaware of our presence and not to care that we saw it. The woman tried to get her cell phone to work in order to photograph the object, but it would not work. I thought the battery was drained, but after the object was out of sight, the phone resumed working. The two decided to go back in the house, but then something caught the woman's attention. There was a 4-foot-tall humanoid being standing next to a tree and a little behind it. It looked grayish, but it's hard to tell in the darkness, and even though there was a full moon out, I just got a glimpse of it before it vanished. Oddly, I did not react by yelling or running away. An entire day went by before the woman reacted to what she saw. My son said he did not see it. When we got back inside, I was shocked to see that it was at least 50 minutes to an hour later than when we went outside. It seemed like it was only 20 minutes of time had elapsed. Once inside that night, then I heard the sound of the helicopter approaching. I have never seen a helicopter out there in my entire life. We did not go outside to look at it. The woman said that both her and her son seemed to be in a trance that evening, but both reported sleeping very well during the night. Then the son went into the town the following evening and had a strange encounter. The next evening, the son was in town getting some groceries when he was approached by two policemen. They asked my son how he was doing and if he believed in aliens or ever saw an alien. He replied that he did not. Then again, they asked the same question, which he thought was very odd again, and replied that he did not. There had been no prior conversation. He does not know that these men very well, so thought it was odd that they would say something like that. He was afraid to tell him what he saw the night before. All right, more to the article. You can read the rest yourself. Pretty fascinating. Next, UFO Stalker website. I haven't been here for a while, so just wanted to bring this up. Great place to go and just kind of check out many different sightings that are going on. What's cool about this is you got the map. So you can look at the map. It has sightings where they're at. You look down here and you just click on the link. It takes you where it is. And that way you can kind of hone in and get information on each one of these. Alright, so that's pretty cool. I'll leave that available so you can check it out. Some of the latest ones were over Kentucky, South Carolina, huge hovering craft, the sides of a large building. We had one in Ohio, cluster of hovering yet moving, blinking, multicolored, observing the southern sky. Michigan, these are all on the 26th. These are all on the 26th, so just recent ones. And so check this out. It keeps good, up-to-date information. Over here, this is UFO Hotspots in the U.S. Lone Star State is a UFO hotspot, wrote James Ragland for the Morning News. MUFON's spokesman cited a reason for saying this, that several airports, military bases, and large populations of the area contribute to it. Most reported sightings can be attributed to terrestrial origins, added Marsh, but Marsh also noted that there's a percentage that's still not known. Based on the data released by MUFON, 7,182 UFO sightings were reported by the UFO network across the U.S. last year. The number is 20% more of reported sightings in 2011. California has the most sightings, followed by Texas. All right. Goes on to say the UFO sighting investigators at MUFON were made up of scientists with degrees in electrical engineering, physics, chemistry, and geology. The team of investigators was formed last year to investigate the most mysterious UFO sightings to get their attention. Alright, and we're going to go one last piece here. And this gets into discussing, it says, the physics of extraterrestrial civilizations and how advanced they could possibly be. Alright, first we get into three civilization types. Current status of human civilization. Human civilization is currently somewhere below Type 1, as it is able to harness only a portion of the energy that is available on Earth. The current state of human civilization thus has been named Type 0. Although immediate values were not discussed in Kardashev's original proposal, Carl Sagan argued that it could easily be defined by interpolating and extrapolating the values given above. In 1973, he calculated humanity's civilization type to be 0.7 in relationship to Kardashev's model of 0 and 1. And then here's a different type of civilizations. You got the Type 0. We just described that. Type 1, these civilizations can effectively control the entire resources of their planet, predict weather patterns, earthquakes accurately, and even control them artificially. We have Type 2, extended their powers to an entire solar system by harnessing the power of their suns through Dyson spheres. Type 3, at the custom-powered Type 3 civilizations span entire galaxies, having colonized all the stars by wave after wave of interstellar craft. They can harness the power of galaxies. Astrophysicists theorize that this may be done by exploiting the fact that black holes can be used as a source of energy as they slowly evaporate via Hawking radiation. So, kind of get an idea that there is a lot of intelligence out there, and just going along, look at these Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, in comparison to where we're at, we're very, very primitive down here on Earth. Okay, very primitive. So, civilizations that are able to move through space in those spaceships, obviously, just by understanding this, they're much more advanced. Not only because they have the ability to harness the technology, but simply, in doing so, they've been around a long time. Now, it doesn't mean spiritually they're necessarily the most advanced in understanding how to use the energies around them. Obviously, we'd expect that the higher up one goes, the more spiritually advanced one might get. But we do hear the stories of the fallen angels and things of that nature to let us know that even at the highest realms of spirituality, there can be a fall from grace. So, that's our UFO news. I got much more. I'll be right back.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
All right. Continuing on. So yesterday, they had this, I guess it was a cloture vote on the decision of Obamacare. And basically what they decided during the course of this vote, it was decide, I guess, to continue on the discussion. And so there's going to be a vote now apparently on Friday, and today is a day where they get to discuss it, and there's rules to these clotures where each senator has only a certain amount of time that he can get up and talk. So, I don't understand the whole system all that well. This is the basics of what I understand. But they're discussing it. What's going to happen? I don't know. I know there's a lot of people out there that are all confused because they heard Senator Ted Cruz talking against Obamacare, and then when he gave this vote yes, everyone's saying the guy's a traitor. He talked about this and voted the other way. But the vote apparently isn't until Friday, as far as I understand. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think the vote's till Friday. I think that he was one of those who was just participating in the process to continue the discussion. Okay, to not shelve the discussion, and that was the important part. Well, so we'll find out what happens on Friday with that. But here is a story that's interesting involving Obamacare. It says IRS Watchdog. $67 million are missing from the Obamacare slush fund. The IRS is unable to account for $67 million spent from a slush fund established for Obamacare implementation, according to a Chitaita report today. The IRS is unable to account for $67 million spent from a slush fund established for Obamacare implementation, according to a Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration report released today. The Health Insurance Reform Implementation Fund, otherwise known as HIRIF, was tucked into Obamacare in order to give the IRS money to enforce the tax provisions of the healthcare law. The fund, totaling some $1 billion of taxpayer money, was used to roll out enforcement mechanisms for the approximately 50 tax provisions of Obamacare. The report also found several other abuses of taxpayer funds. All right, I'm going to move on from this story, but what do you think would happen if any American suddenly came up missing $67 million? Not that the average American has 67, but don't you think that it would be a red flag? Now here's the IRS, they're just missing money. Does anybody think that's weird out there, or is it just me? Okay. Now, while all of this was going on, we've heard the stories about the arms trades. We heard about the Fast and Furious situation that went on. We hear the stories of the administration is providing arms to Al-Qaeda and to the Syrian rebels. Those that we used to fight against are now those who are getting weapons. Well, all the same while that's going on, there's a great push taking place in this country to disarm American citizens. Well, that's kind of disconcerting, very concerning. So we go over here and we look. Kerry signs the U.S. Arms Trade Treaty, but he says it won't harm U.S. rights. Well, we know Kerry's a liar, so we don't really listen to what he says about that. The United States signed a UN arms treaty regulating the $70 billion global trade in conventional arms on Wednesday, and the Obama administration sought to allay the fears of the powerful U.S. gun lobby, which says the pact will violate the constitutional rights of Americans. The treaty, which relates only to cross-border trade and aims to keep weapons out of the hands of human rights abusers and criminals, still requires ratification by the U.S. Senate and has been attacked by the influential Gun Rights Association, the NRA. Among the NRA's arguments against the treaty are that it undermines American sovereignty and it disregards the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees citizens the right to bear arms. The United States, the world's #1 export, became the 91st country to sign when U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry put pen to paper on the sidelines of the annual gathering of world leaders at the United Nations. Okay? So you're putting the pieces of this puzzle together. I got another piece. Check this one out. This one is going to be amazing because now we've got the enemy is being armed. American citizens are being disarmed. The UN now is going to get involved. But wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. What's more? Well, FEMA, DHS, and 386,000 foreign troops now on U.S. soil. Questions whether or not Obama is going to be issuing martial law sometime, perhaps in October. What if our worst fears are confirmed? We've been watching as the criminal forces within the U.S. government slowly work their way into a more entrenched position in the machinery of power. What if the reason we have so many of our troops overseas, including our National Guardsmen, is to remove them from the scene of an American coup? If you remember this is the FEMA regions. The United States broken up into 10 FEMA regions. Strangely enough, the Obama administration appointed 10 governors positions, not state governors. People don't really quite understand what these 10 governors for. Well, there's 10 governors he appointed and there's 10 FEMA zones. Put the puzzle together, my friends. Put the puzzle together. Could it be that the ultimate move behind the foreign wars? Is there a lot of information contained in this video? There is a lot of information in this video and accompanying text from the Sleuth Journal. Added together, there is little more than cause for concern. We should all pray that this is just a conspiracy theorist nightmare. If there's more to it, it could be the real nightmare for the whole world. Following the breadcrumb trail of the FEMA orders, retired State Senator Sheldon R. Songstead of South Dakota issued an emergency FEMA Region 3 alert on August 13th. Region 3 is comprised of Washington, D.C., Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia. Songstad's research turned up some very interesting facts. Each item on its own could go unnoticed, but the collective facts may be worthy of your attention and scrutiny. The U.S. government appears to be preparing for a major event. It appears this event is being staged for approximately October 1st. Let's look at the numbers and the dates. UN peacekeepers began training the 4th week of July and will complete their 9-week training by October 1st. They are learning English as well as U.S. weapon system and urban warfare training. How many troops are training? 386,000 troops. Okay? So, let's backtrack. We've got rebels are being armed by the administration. Americans are being disarmed by the administration. There are 386,000 foreign troops training on American soil. Well, American troops are being sent overseas. You seeing what's going on here? Then we have all the orders that went on. Remember how FEMA ordered all of these supplies and all the bullets that were purchased, and many of these things, as of late, are set to have their orders in by the 1st. Here we go. It says the Center of Disease ordered 11 million worth of antibiotics. Where are they going? FEMA Region 3. When are they due? October 1st. This coupled with the fact that the World Health Organization held an emergency meeting, its second meeting in its history, to discuss MERS coronavirus. This is quite unsettling. The WHO determined that a vaccine must be in place by October 1st. All right, so then it goes on here more and more about the purchases, about trainings, about things being put in place, schools that are running emergency drills, and so on. Something's taking place, my friends. Now, I don't want to be someone who's a fearmonger, and I certainly am not trying to put that out there, but I just want to alert you to some of the things that are going on. If you scour the internet, YouTube videos and other video sources, you're going to find there's a lot of people having dreams about a major earthquake happening, dreams about tsunamis happening. We've got the one gentleman, the father of an autistic son, who keeps posting online things that his son has said, and the reason he's posting online is because his son seems to be saying things that have come true. And after a number of these incidents, the father started making note of the things he would say and that they would come true. Well, the son's been saying things about big earthquake, big situation on October 1st. As a matter of fact, he went even on to say the other day, the father did a posting, said they were walking through the streets. I guess they live in the San Francisco area, and the son said, "Sharks in the street, sharks in the street." And father asked, from where? And he said, from the Bay, the big earthquake, and that they need to be out of that area and up in Oregon by the 1st of October. So take it for what you will, but there's a lot of these out there. Now, how do we deal with this? If there's a big earthquake on its way, can we stop that? I don't know. But I do know that we all have the ability to go inside ourselves and get right with ourselves, to find ways to protect ourselves. Whatever this process of change is, we can tune in to understand it a little bit more if we really want to. And that's the most important part. We don't really want to get caught up in the fear. Life continues on. You know, there's no death. It's just a transition from one phase to the other. We need to put aside our fears and kind of look at what's going on. I don't have an answer for this. I'm just putting the info out, knowing that we keep sending out love and positivity and things of that nature. It can only benefit us. And the stories that we hear about the splitting of the two worlds, the new earth and the old earth, tell us that the old earth is crumbling away, and the new earth is the earth where we're taking ourselves and our consciousness to, so focus there. So I think there's a lot of different ways we can look at this situation, and just some food for thought. And let me continue on here with this next story. This story is by Charlie Reese. It's empowernetwork.com. 545 versus 300,000 people. 300 million, excuse me. Politicians are the only people in the world who create problems and then campaign against them. Have you ever wondered if both Democrats and Republicans are against deficits? Then why do we have deficits? Have you ever wondered if all politicians are against inflation and high taxes? Then why do we have inflation and high taxes? You and I don't propose a federal budget. The president does. You and I don't have constitutional authority to vote on appropriations. The House of Representatives does. You and I don't write the tax code. Congress does. You and I don't set fiscal policy. Congress does. You and I don't control monetary policy. The Federal Reserve Bank does. 100 senators, 435 congressmen, 1 president, and 9 Supreme Court justices equates to 545 human beings out of the 300 million that are directly, legally, morally, and individually responsible for the domestic problems that plague this country. I excluded the members of the Federal Reserve because that problem was created by Congress in 1913. Congress delegated its constitutional duty to provide a sound currency to a federally chartered but private central bank. Okay, there's a lot more to the article. You can go on and see, but this is something I've been talking about and others been talking about a long while. There's a small little percentage of those who are causing problems, and there is the big percentage of those who aren't causing problems. Okay? There's more of us than there are of them. We are the people. We've got the power. There's more of us than there are of them. They're running scared because they know that. There's too many people with video cameras. There's too many people onto what they're all about. So all of these false flags are happening, and all of these threats are going on to take away people's guns because they're not going to try to do something otherwise. Because I know many individuals who say if someone comes for the guns, they'll be glad to give them the guns, but they're going to give them the bullets first. And I would imagine that's a sentiment that a lot of gun owners probably have across this country. So there's a good reason why they want to take the guns away, because they can't have a takeover if the people have the guns. They want to take over. This is a complete takeover. This administration is pushing through things that other administrations have put in place. Americans, you gotta wake up. I don't know if you're still asleep out there. I don't know if the stories that I've read to you have inspired you to get up off of your couch. The UN Arms Treaty, signed it. The Obamacare thing, all of these things I'm talking about. Are you paying attention? Are you connecting the dots? If you're not, well, try harder, please, for your own sake. All right, here we're going to change gears here. This is foot cream kills HIV by tricking cells to commit suicide. Although this research has yet to be confirmed on people, cyclopriox completely eradicates HIV from cell cultures. The virus doesn't bounce back when the drug is stopped. A common drug that dermatologists prescribe to treat nail fungus appears to come with a so tiny side effect, eradicating HIV. In a study performed at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School, not only does the drug Cisalpriox completely eradicate infectious HIV from cell cultures, but unlike today's most cutting-edge antiviral treatments, the virus doesn't bounce back when the drug is withheld. This means it may not require a lifetime of use to keep HIV at bay. The same group of researchers had previously shown Cisalpriox, approved by the FDA and Europe's EMA as safe for humans, used to treat foot fungus. It inhibits the expression of HIV genes in culture. Now they have found that it also blocks the essential functions of the mitochondria, which results in the reactivation of the cell's suicide pathway, all the way sparing the healthy cells. So this is very positive news, finding things like this. So read the rest of the article, pass that along to your friends. Good news for us. Now, the Monsanto fight, GMOs, there's been a big battle going on. You know about it. Well, progress is continuing to be made. It says, thanks to the intellectual campaigns we have been launching on the front lines against the agricultural corruption brought upon by Monsanto and its GMOs, we are now winning the overall war against the corporate monopoly and genetically modified creations at large. One such major victory, which occurred as a result of activism and overall outrage from the public, is the announcement by senators that they are going to kill the Monsanto Protection Act. Renewal license. The Monsanto Protection Act, as you are probably aware, was of course the legislative rider that granted Monsanto legal immunity for its crops up until September 30th, 2013. A rider that some slimy senators were attempted to renew for additional months. But even though Monsanto was surely willing to help sway the politicians financially, they simply could not go against a colossal amount of public outrage over the support for Monsanto and GMOs, a powerful form of activism that we are seeing more and more often around the nation and worldwide. The same powerful activism that has Monsanto cowering in fear of the general public that the awakening the disease machine practices of the company. Alright, so that's very good. People are awakening, little by little. These things are happening. It's not everybody. It's groups of individuals, activists right now, and that's good. More people gather together with these activist groups, which is very helpful. Very important, and it just shows the power of people. When people stand up, look at this. Okay, the senators, the people, the congressmen aren't, they may be able to take the bribes, but they also know that in taking those bribes, there's so much going on in the world today that someone's going to find out, and pretty soon their time as being a congressman is going to be in jeopardy because they'll get voted out. So there's a lot going on people can do. People wonder, what can we do to be involved and help the situation? First of all, be aware. Awareness is 50% of the problem. You become aware of what's going on. Now you can clearly and in an informed manner decide what you're going to do to help the situation. There's a lot of things out there. Standing up, speaking about it, telling others, that's what we have to do. It's an information war going on. The more information we have, the better off we're going to be. People can't fool us if we know what's going on. Alright, over to the Book of Revelation. Today, chapter 19. And after these things I heard a great voice of much people in heaven saying, Hallelujah! Salvation and glory and honor and power unto the Lord our God. For true and righteous are his judgments, for he hath judged the great whore which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and hath avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. And again they said, Alleluia! And her smoke rose up forever and ever. And the 24 elders and the 4 beasts fell down and worshipped God that sat on the throne, saying, Amen, Alleluia. And a voice came out of the throne, saying, Praise our God, all ye his servants, and ye that fear him, both small and great. And I heard as it were a voice of a great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of many thunderings, saying, Alleluia, for the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. Let us be glad and rejoice, and give honor for him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen of the righteous of the saints. And he saith unto me, Write, blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he saith unto me, These are the true sayings of God. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren, that they have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon that was called the Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon the white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, and with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of Almighty God. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. And I saw a beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make a war against him that sat on the horse, and against his army. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that had worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And the remnants were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceedeth out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. And that is Revelation 19. Getting close to the end. Alright, this is a message for today. High Council of Orion.
Channeled Ascension message from the High Council of Orion.
September 21st, 2013. Channeled by Holly Hawkins Marwood, transcribed by Paul Marwood.
The concept of oneness.
Greetings, dear ones. We are the High Council of Orion. Today we would like to talk about this idea or concept of oneness, and what it means to live into oneness. You live in a world at the current time where there is a lot of division, a division within your experience of your individuality within your physical body, a division within businesses, within cities, within countries, within socio-economic status, within racial divisions, and on and on and on. So it's very difficult within the energetics of your planet, which is very divided and very dualistic, and within that concept of dualistic is almost as if a choice has to be made, that if there are two then one can only have one, or if there are 10 a choice needs to be made to 1 out of 10 instead of all, and it is definitely within the collective consciousness within the planet, to want to stratify those divisions to make them so that one is better than the other. And you all know and you live this, whether it's one religious thought is better than the other, one business thought is better than the other, one political leader is better than the other. But the truth is that it's all within the same body of consciousness, and your attention is being drawn to certain parts of it, so it's all within one body of consciousness. There is a unity within all of that, and so we're going to encourage you at the beginning of this message today to start looking at the opportunities where you observe division, observed differences, and allow yourself to dissolve those differences. If somebody's in front of you who you feel judgmental about, who you look at how they're dressed, what their skin is like, the job they have, whatever it might be, and you are in this comparative state, understand that that is promoting and continuing this idea of division. And this goes back to that statement that is so often uttered on your planet, but for the grace of God there go I. That is one statement where you are beginning to live into this idea of oneness, this idea of all are one. Now the real message today though is this need to look outside of oneself for the answers. This is not to say that you might not need help and support in moving forward, by people who are further down the road, or might know a particular thing better than you do at the current moment in time, but this idea that the answers are out there, and in this case we are going to talk about the answers are out there for those of you who constantly feel that the star beings are beyond, are the gods. The truth is we are all still within this consciousness, we are still within the oneness. So the place where we are as the High Council of Orion, or the Pleiadian beings or the Arcturian beings, or whatever level of star beings or non-physical beings that you are relating to, understand that consciousness is there for you, and as you can just even allow for the fact that there is no division. It's not well they know that, and I haven't achieved it yet, it's just that's the realm that you can actually allow your energies to move into. As soon as you stop seeing it as an us versus them, and realize it's all within the same collective, then you have an opportunity to actually allow that information to move into your life more easily, to allow that to be more accessible to you, for you to almost naturally live it instead of needing to reach out, get information, digest it, and hope you can integrate it. If you start to see that all of the information that you seek, all the knowledge, the healing, the shifts and changes that you seek are there within the oneness, that you begin to, with your consciousness of oneness, begin to dissolve the barriers. You're starting to see and live into a unity consciousness, and if you are in a unity consciousness you automatically have access to a greater level of knowledge and information, that can assist you in the here and now, that doesn't always require a teacher or a conduit to bring that information to you. It also doesn't always require that there's efforting involved and success and failure, which by the way is a dualistic term as well, but that it's all within this field of consciousness for you to embody. It's all there, and so we ask you to just become aware of the duality in your thinking. This is good, this is bad, that person's good or bad, the TV show is good or bad. Just allow it as you observe duality coming into your consciousness. Allow yourself to just open up the barriers of the duality to say it's all within the field of this oneness, this unity consciousness, and as you do the barrier dissolves and it allows you to access more. Have fun with this and play with this idea of dissolving the barriers to duality, so you yourself can energetically move into a greater space of unity. Be blessed. We are the High Council of Orion.
Alright, very nice. Alright, the angel message for today is: your children here and in heaven are loved, happy and well. Your children here and in heaven are loved, happy and well. Alright, very nice. Very nice indeed. So, you know, one thing that comes to mind with the story I hear of the oneness, it's very important that we understand that there is this oneness going on. But the oneness being talked about, this isn't the same thing as this New World Order idea of bringing everybody under one world government. That's different, okay? That's the concern that humanity has, that the deceit is going to be played, that we all have to gather under this global unity, or this government unity. That's not it. That's not what this oneness is about. It's understanding our oneness with the universe. Okay? Not oneness with the government, oneness with the universe. If you remember Jesus, one of the things he said is, I and my Father are one. We hear this over and over throughout, this union with spirit, with divinity, okay, with the very nature of the cosmos, that we are all part of this. Before there was duality, before the story of Adam and Eve, everything was all together in oneness. There was harmony, there was beauty, peace. There wasn't all these problems of these wars. And then from that moment, whatever occurred during that moment, there was a separation that began. Duality began. And now we go through life looking at these experiences, seeing things as good or bad. But they're not necessarily good or bad. They're just different ends of the extreme. We need to learn and understand the importance of what's going on and how this oneness really plays itself out in our life. What it is and what it isn't. The oneness isn't the government. The oneness is oneness with the universe, with God. That's what the oneness is all about. Okay? And the government is not God. For those of you who think it is, sorry to burst your bubble. It's not. Obama is not in that category. Sorry for those of you who think that as well. God is God. Okay? We're all part of that oneness because we all come from that creative source. That's the whole point. Okay? Not a New World Order agenda. So, there you go. Now, let's do our meditation. I want you to take a deep breath. Exhale. Go ahead and close your eyes. Take another deep breath. Exhale again. Alright, I want you to imagine all your chakras are activated, starting at the bottom of the spine, red, orange, yellow, green at the heart, blue at the throat, indigo at the third eye, violet at the crown chakra, and continuing on. And there you are, filled with this light. I want you to imagine yourself standing out in the street, in the place in the world where you live. And I want you to imagine really feeling what the earth is saying. And I want you to imagine that the place where you are has a very intense earthquake. And as it goes on, the first thought is a thought of concern. But then quickly, you move from concern into taking action by sending love to the situation. And you imagine sending love down to the earth and actually see light pouring out from your hands. The green color of love just pouring through the chakras, pouring out into the world. Imagine sending this love down into the planet. And imagine seeing the planet, the place that is rocking, stabilize itself. And the shaking stops. Imagine seeing a hurricane moving forward and then focusing the attention on that hurricane to see it dissipate. And the hurricane dissipates. And we imagine that we are in a situation where great tsunamis being created, moving in towards the shore. So we imagine the waters being calm, and the waters calm down. And no matter what situation there might be, no matter what kind of calamity or concern or disaster, we can calm that situation. We can put ourselves in a protective bubble. As we look closely at the situation of why this occurs, we realize that deep within our consciousness is this pattern, this destruction, this memory of some sort of ancient destruction. And we keep playing it out over and over again. But this time, we're going to make a shift instead. This time, we're not going to play out the destruction that we played out before. Been there, done that. So we imagine sending light down into the planet, and we imagine this light going down and acting as support columns and structures and platforms and all other forms of support underneath all of the planet, underneath all of the continents. And we use this light and see this light as a stabilizing factor. And we just imagine the earth stabilized by the light that we send out collectively. And as we do, we understand our connection to the earth. And the more that we are connected and allow ourselves to connect, the more we are able to understand the growing pains the earth is going through. And the more we're able to participate in the process, to assist the earth. And in assisting the earth will assist us as well. So imagine standing on this earth, seeing the earth shining bright, with a green aura of love all around it. And the earth is smiling, and the cosmos is smiling. And everybody is happy. Let's hold that thought in our mind's eye of the world smiling and everyone being happy. And know that this is possible. All we have to do is be happy. Put out the positive vibes. So let our subconscious mind continue on this journey, sending out positive vibes and happiness into the world. And let's bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take a deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's our show for today. That's the meditation, the whole kit and caboodle. So, that's it. Go into the world. Have a great day. I know there's a lot of challenges going on. We can get through them all. We can get through all these challenges. Okay? I like to believe that we're here to particularly get through these challenges, that this is part of our lesson that will help move us forward spiritually, emotionally, mentally, in many different ways. We will become stronger through this process. So we just need to keep being positive, my friends. Despite the doubts and the fears in the world and all the talk and the nonsense that goes on, the wars and the rumors of wars, we must be faithful. We must continue to be faithful and strong in our conviction, our belief, and our positivity, and just keep sending love into the world. We do that, we're doing our job. And that's the important part. All right, my friends, keep sending out love. I'll do the same. Let's be back here tomorrow, and we'll do another show. Talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.